myself, that must have been second nature to them. And why is it that there was no voice activation or speed dial or picture or video or anything with the cell phones during that time? What's very interesting about these stingrays is there have been lawsuits in other states for people contacting 911 and having the signal dropped. This is like a notorious problem with these devices. And I'm not suggesting or saying that this is necessarily what happened. I'm just speculating, why was there no emergency or distress call put out by anybody in that house? And did Michael Addario come up with a reason why that might be? I don't know. Let's take a look at this next video. Make sure I have the right one. And this is going to go into more detail with Stingray. And I don't want to go beyond 3 because, like I said, I really would like you to visit his channel for yourself. Okay, here we go. And then I'll check out the chat while I'm playing this and display your comments. Hold on. This is just kind of off subject, but if you can see the thumbnail in his lower right corner, that's an incredible video. That's I think it's Sharon Tate's sister talking about why Charles Manson and different people shouldn't be bailed out of jail. But it's an incredibly powerful victim statement if you haven't seen it. But this is Michael Addario Photography. Please go visit his channel. And your comments are like absolutely incredible. So let me read a few of them. I've gone through, I started right at the top. So Mrs. Potts says, a stingray gathers up all devices utilizing cell service in a specific area. It will also block calls like 911, for example. Interesting, considering $1 million mobile stingray was used. Okay, so Mrs. Potts is making an incredible point that we all need to listen to. The word stingray was mentioned on the stand, a portable stingray device. Why? Like, so I don't know. And because I've heard different things like stingrays weren't allowed in that area or, and there's a couple other things. I won't dive too deep into that because some other people are touching on some other things. So William Tardy says it's a federal crime to block cell signals. It's kind of like building off of what Mrs. Potts is saying. So what's interesting about these stingrays is they're a lot like, say, IgG. In fact, let me back up a second. The way you disclose them is like a confidential informant. But what's even more interesting about these is it's a step further. Like if you get intel from these devices, the companies, not the government, tells you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You're not allowed to state you're using them. They're also, you have to have apparently permission from the DOJ to say you're using them as well. Allegedly, I'm not an expert, but from what I've gathered. Toes says it became the 26th largest bank account in the US overnight. It became the 26th most talked about bank account in the US overnight. Mimi says, I wonder the same thing about their cell phones often. With 4 victims, I find it hard to believe no one made a call, hit record, something. I just couldn't agree with you more. And I think sometimes we get away from our first instincts when we heard about this, and that was one of them. And then Viviana says, doubt they had any way to grab their phones while being attacked. And I don't doubt you, but we do know a few things, and not to contradict you, just because I had some thoughts when I read your comment. We do know a couple things. Somebody said, there's someone here. We know somebody was crying. So there were moments in between chaos. And there were moments of things that might have scared or alerted people. So you would think, I mean, just think about, well, I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. If I heard commotion, if I heard someone crying, if I heard anything that might be not on the up and up, I'm going to grab my cell phone. I don't know how you guys are, but that's how I am. And if I were sleeping in my bed, you're right, Viviana, I don't know if that I'd be able to do that in time. But awake and alert, probably without a pow, that's the first thing I would do. Jeff says, did the phone calls from Kaylee and Maddie get through Jack to leave a message? Now that's a great question. Let's talk about that, Jeff. Thank you for bringing it up. All right, you guys. Letter from Andrew D. Myers. And I have to take Jeff's comment down in order to read this to you. Hold on. Where's this comment? Okay. Whoa. Oh, I have to take the banner down too. Hold on. Okay, so if we go down to this third paragraph on this letter, it says, we are aware that neither Kaylee nor Maddie made a call to 911. I'd need to double check with the girls as they were the ones who accessed their accounts, according to my recollection. Kaylee's last call was to Jack at 2:56, after which her phone appeared to go offline. There have been rumors of unusual events that night. We haven't found any corroborating reports, so we haven't officially published what we heard within the first 24 hours. We maintain a few different narratives close to our chest to help us understand if the said source has knowledge that we have heard from direct sources. In a situation where information is sealed, closed, gagged, and redacted, these small details help us to discern whether someone knows the true details related to our case or is simply spreading online speculation. Never heard of that, right, guys? Yeah. So what I would say to Jeff's comment is, we know that phone calls, we don't know, we don't know if he left a message, but the phone calls went right offline at 2:56. And it's just, it's kind of interesting because there are reports of around 3 in the morning, like all the systems going down right there at U of I. So I don't know if it's part of something broader. Let me get back up to these starred comments. Oh, and so the next comment Jeff said was, I just wonder if the idea of stingrays should be discounted because the phone calls to Jack D went through, but it was, that's a great comment. It was an hour and 10 minutes later though. And Xana used her phone to order DoorDash. And the girls were, according to Howard Bloom and sources from the Gonzalez family, texting each other during the crime. So I don't know. Great comments, you guys. You always thinking of stingrays when you're doing the laundry. And Meanie says, the calls to JD went through before the crimes occurred, according to the PCA. Viviana says, there was no stingray in deployment that morning. And then Meanie says, how could you say that with certainty? Mrs. Potts says, no one knows if a stingray was in place that morning except police. William says, DM and BF were texting at the time. Cell phones worked fine. Allegedly. We've only heard that from Howard Bloom. The PCA does say, though, the forensic download of the girls' phones showed the approximate times. So I don't know if that they were either holding their phone or using their phone at that time. That's what that means. And aside from that, William, you're bringing up the point that somebody was using their phone at that time, which was Xana. Xana was TikToking and ordering DoorDash. So those are things that, yeah. Would use cell phone tower, not just the Wi-Fi. And then Viviana says, because Idaho doesn't employ them and MPD definitely does not have one. And I've heard that too, Viviana, and I've actually seen other people say that in Idaho or doesn't use them, or Moscow police. But what was Cy Ray talking about the portable stingray in the van? What was he talking about? If you guys know, drop it in the chat, please. And then Mrs. Potts says, so oh wait, I'm not trying to. Well, I'm not trying to. Let's see. I had a couple more starred. Oh, I like this comment. William Tardy says, according to the ACLU, either 23 or 27 states are known to employ stingrays. Idaho wasn't one on the list. But is it a different device? Because stingray is a blanket term. And are they playing the word game? I'm not telling, I'm asking. I don't know. And then Mrs. Pot. I'm sorry, but you guys know I'm a huge Cy and Carrie fan. Sorry. And I like Mrs. Potts comment. I believe Cy Ray, not someone who has been testified in court. Oops, hold on. What did I do? Oh my God. I don't know what's going on. Oh, Cy never said what state it was used in. So you guys, I stand corrected. So he did not say. Oh, hey, Robert with True Crime Podcast. Robert, I saw you were showing, I think, a video by True Crime Design the other night or last night when I was going to bed. I was just too tired to comment. But I think you've done a little research on this as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat. You're always welcome to come up on panel too. I'm slowing down with the comments because I'm just reading them before I put them on screen, you guys. You know how that goes. Okay, I am gonna show the first of all, several things came up prior to the gag order, and second, the gag order doesn't apply to discussions of what equipment law enforcement has or doesn't have. Oh, we're talking about, okay. Oh, thank you for agreeing me. When I hear a noise and I'm alone, the first thing I do is grab my phone. I call a trusted friend or hit record if it doesn't answer, always. And you guys, I've always decided if it was like a real scary emergency, I'd hit the live stream and just start live streaming to you guys. Supposedly Xana was on her phone at 4:12. Don't you think she would have called someone if she heard the attacks? I do think she would have called someone if she heard the attacks. But I'm wondering if, okay, so let me go back to this. I'm not being clear. So what I'm speculating here, which is pure speculation, of course, is what the theories that we're talking about by Michael Addario would be. She did try calling 911, but it's the 911 feature that has caused the lawsuits in other states, because the 911 gets dropped when there's the use of these devices. So that's what we're getting at. And again, it's pure speculation. Cy made it undoubtedly clear the $1 million mobile Stingray was not necessary as the feds already had eyes on Brian. Cy never said where the $1 million vehicle was deployed and for how long. Meanie says, I find it very hard to okay. Okay, I like this one. Xana would have been the only one possible to grab one, but if he ambushed her, I doubt she could dial. We will see if their phones have any bloody prints on them. Oh God, it's so surreal when we hear it like that. And people speculate, and guys, this is a major trigger warning before I say what I'm about to say. People are speculating, why didn't Kaylee get her cell phone back? And I just can't think of any reason. You know, physically, why do they need her cell phone? And they can't return it to the parents. They have a forensic download of everything. They don't need the phone, but I've always thought maybe it was used as a weapon, because that's something I would do if I had a weapon. But just kind of, you know, skirting around, trying to be sensitive here. But again, when we're talking about two people who are definitely in the same room, how does one get attacked, or how do both simultaneously be incapacitated? Unless he confronted each of them, he or whomever confronted each of them individually, how did he simultaneously subdue both of them and not have another one make a distress phone call? It's very perplexing to me. And I'm going to bring up and so, okay, let's talk about I'm going to pause here and talk about something else. Let's just say, it looks so funny. Let's just say there was, hypothetically, there was a Stingray being used. In March of 2023, two of the families retained their legal rights to hold the university and the city responsible if there was any wrongdoing. What if that was because they knew something we didn't? What if that had to do with the Stingray? Just throwing that out there. Okay, let's read some more comments. Jeff says, I can't imagine calling 911 over what sounds like someone playing with a dog or what sounds like a relationship issue going on across the hall that sounds resolved at the moment. I hear it's okay. Yeah, I agree. But Dylan was scared. She cracked her door because she heard someone say, there's someone here. She cracked her door because she heard crying. She cracked her door and saw someone walk towards her and by her. So, I mean, it's hard to say that she thought there was a dog playing and relationship issue at that moment. And the people outside the room probably would have had a better earshot than her closed door. So I agree with what you say, but I also push back slightly on the thought that it was all they heard. Plus, if the dog was barking at 4:17 when that ring cam turned on for whatever random reason, so the dog I just curious, to me in my head, it sounds like you hear the dog playing and then they catch the dog at 4:17. So wasn't the dog barking that whole time from like 4:05 or 4:12 to 4:17? And I'm not saying she should have dialed 911, but I would think that that bit of fear, you'd have your phone in your hand. I don't know. Really, Robert? And Robert, you have a really, I think maybe I have to, there's updated information, but you did a great video on the GoFundMe's and you brought up a couple points I hadn't seen before. And I actually noticed it did really well after your premiere. Miss Potts says her phone went offline within a few minutes of Brian's. That is interesting too. Okay, so there's a time where the 256, right above that, you can see right on the screen where it says Jack at 256. So Kaylee's last call was at 256. That's also when Brian's phone went offline. It's very odd they both went off at the same time. They were obviously nowhere near each other. And then it's known that Idaho doesn't allow stingrays. It's a covert info. This isn't covert info. Okay. William Tardy says, if the crime happened around that time, I don't think it started until 4:17 when the audio recordings, when the audio records the dog and the thud. Maybe so, but okay, let's just bring up the PCA. Hold on a second. I'm bringing up the PCA because it does state that the forensic download stated the dog playing or those noises started at around 4:05. Hold on. Idaho judicial cases of interest. Here we go. All right, you guys, let's take a look at the court documents. Hold on. Let me take this photo down. Oh, it didn't. Darn it. Okay, probable cause affidavit. I think it's on page 5. Oh, here we go. I think that's where it starts. Here we go. Okay. So hopefully this clears this up for you, or clears it up for us, or probably not, probably just making it more confusing, but let's just read what the PCA tells us. So the question is, did the dog barking start at 4:17, and what can we surmise from the PCA? So what does the PCA say? DM stated she originally went to sleep. Let me actually get my little highlighter out while I do this. So DM said she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonzalez playing with her dog in the upstairs bedroom, which were located on the 3rd floor. A short time later, after 4:05, DM stated she heard what she thought was Gonzalez saying to effect, "There's someone here." So again, she might not have thought it was a emergency at this time, but the playing with the dog, I mean, you would think it would say dog barking if it's dog barking, but the playing with the dog, why did she think it was playing with the dog? If it wasn't barking, it could just be noise or partying, but she said playing with the dog. So I'm assuming there was barking involved. Now here's where things get a little interesting, not to trail off on another subject, but check this out for those who aren't familiar with it. A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone so that it could also have been Kernodle, as her cellular phone was likely awake and using TikTok at 4:12 a.m. So I always think this is really interesting because, and again, I'm getting on a different subject, but I think it's interesting because DM says she said she heard what she thought was Gonzalez say something to the effect of "there's someone here," but the police are saying they think it's Kernodle. That's weird to me. I don't know if it's weird to you. Let me get back to the comments. So anyway, my point is that I think there was dog barking at about 4:05, but we don't know. Maybe if it was dog barking, it would have outright said dog barking. It wouldn't have said like playing with your dog, but don't know. Let me see what the chat has to say. Wait, hold on. Truth and Justice Crime with Anna D says, so did they have a problem with the phone towers that night? Because if everybody's phone was offline, or was it just that they went offline? They did have a problem with their phones last night. Well, I shouldn't say with the phones. There was either a routine or I don't know, but there was some sort of system outage that lasted from about 3 a.m. to like 8 or 9 the next morning. A lot of that info comes from WSU Mom Kim. I should just probably let you know my source, but I have heard of it before. She just confirmed it to me. Yeah, so I don't know. Just telling you what I know. Truth and Justice, True Crime with Anna. Hi, Texas. Oh, wait, hold on. Texas says, if something was to happen here, 911 would be called after the fact. If you live rurally in the United States, I was telling this to my live stream once too. It's like, okay, if I call 911 in my hometown, literally they sort of changed protocol. But when I was a kid, the police would have to get out of bed, whoever was on call, and like get dressed, get in their car. It takes like 15 minutes for the police to get there. So in a real emergency, you have to know how to care for your home and your house before the police can get there. Wait, you just Googled for Viv. Oh, what? Wait, hold on. Yes, Idaho police use Stingray devices. Stingray devices are cell tower simulators that allow police to track a suspect's phone. And then Viviana is pushing back on Toes, saying, Toes, they don't. 23 states do, but they don't. And I wonder, would we even know? Would we even, if they were using one? And I wonder, like, if it's a federal crime, does that change anything? If it's a, you know what I mean? Like if they're tracking something federal, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it's just something you could use in open court, but to solve the crime, maybe. Let me know what you think in the chat. Wait. Okay, so people are getting I'm not going to keep displaying it, but people are getting 2 different search results in Google. Some are saying that, I mean, because, although let's bring it up, Mrs. Potts is saying, she said they do allow stingrays. So I'm not trying to come at you from a place of knowledge. Obviously, I haven't obtained the correct information. I haven't obtained the information I need yet. This is a broad subject, and I don't even know if there is an answer to this question. Is there even, I don't know, case law? I'm sure there is. Oh, wait, okay, hold on. Yeah, and then I go back to, well, Cyrus said, damn, there was a stingray. Wow, there's some intense things going on in the chat. Like Mr. Well, MPD ISB violate the rules regulatory for profit. I don't know how. Oh, with the seizing of drug money. The PD lied to obtain. PD lied to obtain equipment, according to Cyrus' testimony. You know what? Okay, this is what I'm going to do, you guys. I don't know if it'll be the next live stream because I really, really need to do a live stream about Nancy Grace before I do anything else because there's something I need to clear up that I heard on her show. But the live stream I'll put together after it, we're going to get Cyrus' testimony about the stingray. So if anyone wants to post it on their channels, I'll just share your video if you want to go find it for me. But that's going to be my mission, is to get the quotes from Cyrus about the stingray and maybe try to find him talking about the stingray outside of court as well. So we can get a little bit of like actual expert testimony on them. Oh, and then Chrissy says, I will say, if you Google it, it does say Idaho uses them. So I never said it was used in Idaho. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, pretty. Meanie says, in that court hearing, I remember him saying that he could go either way. Okay. He said the warrant for it was December 23rd. Brian was in Pennsylvania that date. That is interesting. Noted. Thank you. I'll put a star next to that one. Mrs. Potts says a stingray is a smaller portable device. The mobile stingray is entirely separate and is used all over the country by hundreds of LE and departments, especially feds and the task force. I didn't realize, I mean, I obviously know they're different devices, but I didn't realize they had different regulations. I'm putting a star next to that too, because that's a good piece of information. Robert, oh, I have permission. Thank you, Robert. I need to review that too. When I do my part 2, when we go through Cyrus' testimony on the stingrays, I'm definitely going to find some good clips. Maybe you should come join me too, since you've been studying it when we do part 2 of this. Wait. We believe Payne that he never heard of BK until December 20th. We have to assume the stingray was used in Pennsylvania. Oh my gosh, you guys are giving me so much food for thought. All right, William, that one gets a star too. Okay, Meanie says, hey, did Texas Rangers, showing that Cy has enough sense and respect for our constitutional rights is not authority. What? Did you call Cy authority? You guys, watch what you say about Cy. I'm very protective of him, Carrie. Do not authoritatively state that someone is guilty or not prior to being shown actual evidence. Sorry, I can't talk. William Tardy. Exactly. It was after Brian left. I wonder. I mean, you know, maybe we're looking at the wrong thing. Maybe we need to look in Pennsylvania. Okay, they want me to Google, does Idaho use stingrays? Okay, I'll do it. Hold on. I got to bring up Google though, because I use Bing. Google. Let's take a look. Let me type it in before I bring you there. Yeah, that's so funny. I'm typing it in and I started typing in, does Idaho use stingrays? And it filled in the rest and said, for bait. Oh, wait, is that the right Google search? Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Okay. Okay, so this says the AI says, yes, some police in Idaho use Stingray devices. Stingray devices are cell tower simulators that law enforcement uses to track down suspects' phone. Police mount a device in a van or use a directional antenna to track a suspect's phone number. They can also use the device to sweep up all unknown signals in a suspected area. Concerns. Civil liberty groups have raised concerns about the use of a Stingray, including capturing cell phones that aren't connected to law enforcement investigation, to affecting all phones in the area while searching for a single person. 3, disproportionately affecting poor and minority communities. And 4, jamming calls. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to those lawsuits that people have had against the devices, is because they were trying to call 911 and were blocked. Wait, I can't remember exactly, but I took it as he couldn't help the prosecution too. Well, he has to tell the truth and he will be cross-examined by them. All right, Diana says, okay, other creators have posed a question as to whether it was actually Xana on her phone. Someone could have used her phone to throw people off as to the timeline. I actually have a source on this one. It's Jeff H. Let me show you something, Diana, and you tell me what you think. We're going to go to my channel. And the video we're looking for has Xana on the front. And I think you're going to find this really interesting. I'm not going to tell you, I'm just going to show you how we believe that we know it was Xana. The video is called Idaho 4, Xana's 412 TikTok activity, Brian Kohlberger.
I want to talk about Xana Kernodle and her last social media activities today. We are aware that Xana was on TikTok just minutes before Keller entered the residence on King Road and slayed 4 of 6 students in the house. Xana was in the second-floor bedroom with her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, and both were slain. Xana was beautiful and outgoing, and a lot of her personality could be seen on TikTok videos. She can also be seen in other people's TikTok videos, and always appeared to be having such a great time. This right here is possibly one of the last videos Xana watched on TikTok. If we go to the comment section, we see that she even took the time to comment, saying Queen. The date is the 13th November 2022. How terribly sad to think about.
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso.
For this, but my babe was found, so we gotta go do it. I don't know where the fuck my car keys are. I won't drive like I could. I won't. Let's go. No, let's fucking go. Who could? Can you? No, I can drive. Well, shit. I'll do it. No. Don't pee. Don't fucking pee. Wow, that's aggressive. Okay. I'm just. No. Guys, like, I'm like clear. I'm like.
Today, I just wanted to talk about Xana because I have reported a few things that I was mistaken about in the past regarding Xana's TikTok activity. And what I'm showing you right now is the last TikTok that Xana Kernodle ever made. And this was the TikTok activity that was referenced in the PCA. And she wrote, "Never forget the foundation in the bathtub." So there was also another post earlier that evening where she wrote Queen. that you saw at the beginning of that video I just played. So I just wanted to discuss this for a second. So in the past, we've said possibly TikTok itself could have produced the activity at that time. Maybe it wasn't Xana. I've also heard that if somebody was, evil enough to do what they did, they'd be evil enough to pick up the phone and pretend they're Xana as well. But this TikTok this comment sort of, for me personally, shakes away kind of the doubt on that, because she's saying, never forget the foundation in the bathtub. And that apparently was a childhood joke with this TikTok creator. She had broke one of the mother's foundations in the bathtub when they were in 8th grade. And it was funny or something along those lines. So I just thought I had an obligation to show this information that I had cleared up to me about a week ago. I thought it'd be worth sharing it with you so that you have the information too, and you can do with it, what you need to do. So I've got a few comments here. Xana seemed like so much fun.
Let's go. Let's fucking go. No,
Does this make anyone else angry? It goes from sadness to anger, as the years go by. That somebody could do that to that little girl. Anyway, let's read some of your comments. I'm so behind, it's gonna take a while. Hold on. Mrs. Potts says, maybe the two girls' phones were missing. Hence, they need Steve to break into the phones in the beginning. It would seem there were 4 phones present. B and D, X and E, not K and M. Wow. That's some food for thought, Mrs. Potts. That's right. That's where, I guess the question is, did somebody somewhere say all the other phones had been returned? Do we know if Maddie's phone was returned, or did somebody say it wasn't returned? But I think you bring up a really amazing point there. Okay. And then Scott says, I think Ethan was awake too. They're in the same room and they were, I don't even know, but let's say he wasn't awake. Like, let's just pose the question again, trigger warning. Say the unaliver attacked Ethan first and he was sleeping. How does he hold back Xana or stop Xana from saying, I'm going to cover my phone, hey Siri, or whatever. And vice versa. If Ethan was awake and he went out to the hall to, like, say, confront somebody or something, how is it that she didn't call 911 when I don't know. And maybe it's just more simple and I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be. Hold on. An expert is an expert despite what side hires them. A true expert's testimony shouldn't change based on who hires them. This agreed 100%. Cy-Ray doesn't make money though. He does it for free. And I understand the term hire, but he doesn't do this for money. And he said he reserves the right to change his mind if new information is presented, but the information as he sees it now is exculpatory. Angel says, if she thought it was just Ethan and Xana fighting, etc., then she would have been peeking out scared. I totally agree. I just totally agree. The part about DM that really frustrates me when it comes to the PCA is without the police saying what happens next, I just feel like they've caused so much grief in this poor girl's life, because, I'm going to present the PCA one more time to you guys because we circled the important line that I'm referencing right here. So they say she originally, wait, am I sharing that? Yeah. They say that she originally went to sleep in her room. Why would they say originally if there wasn't a second place she ended up other than her room on the southeast side of the second floor? And then, you know, I don't know. But the other thing I will point out is when they say this, the male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in the room when not seeing the room after seeing the male, did not state that she recognized the male, which leaves the investigators to believe he left the murder scene right afterwards. Look at this though. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. So she couldn't move when she saw him. Guess what though? I think the frozen shock phase was over when, where is it? When she locked herself in her room. Because it's a phase, remember? It's a phase. So that means there's a beginning point and an end point. Well, if she's frozen in shock, the phase is over when she shuts the door and locks it. So I've always said the frozen shock phase, we don't know what that is. And people are like, well, you're in frozen shock phase for 8 hours and don't call 911. I don't think that that's what they meant. I think they're just trying to indicate there was a period of time where she was in absolute frozen fear. I'm wondering if the frozen shock phase was over when she shut the door. And I wonder if that's when she immediately went downstairs. And I'll start turning it to the chat because I'm like really pushing my coffee high on you guys today. Oh, thank you, Christy. I appreciate that. Okay. Seems it would have picked up a dog at 4 a.m. if barking while playing. And I don't know what triggered the ring cam. I mean, we've heard people speculate that that's my dog snoring. If anyone's wondering what that thunder type noise is, that like rolling thunder noise, it's my lab. I don't know if it was the dog that activated that ring camera. People have speculated that it was a cat in the alley that knocked over a trash can. That came from Evil CJ actually. But and 12 Gauge has speculated that too. I think it was said somewhere else that a cat had activated the cameras that way previously. I'm so sorry about that noise. He's like dreaming of the beach or something. So I think that or the loud thud. I don't know. Well, actually the loud thud couldn't have triggered it because it caught the thud. I don't know if it was something inside the house or outside the house. But Diana says, I thought that the general use of a stingray is not divulged since it's a device used to track criminals. So LE are going to give away their methods in bringing down drug rings, etc. Yeah. I don't know how people find out that stingray was used, but there was a very well-publicized lawsuit out of New York on it. And there's been several around the country, but the ACLU will definitely get involved. But you bring up a good point, Diane. How do you know if a stingray is being used? Michael Addario actually goes through all the symptoms of it in that last video that we just showed. I'm not going to play it, but I'll just, oh shoot, I'm not still on it. But he does go through all the symptoms. I mean, really the easiest way to tell, and you should never, ever, ever test it on your own, is to actually, and again, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm telling you how people know is if you dial 911, the call will get dropped. But there's a couple other indicators, and you can go ahead and if you go to his website, he'll list all those out for you. Or you can Google it. Wait, hold on. Vivian, I didn't know they were all asleep besides Diana. Is that including DM and BT? I think the PCA says that she was awoke. Let's look. DM, oh, let's go back up to my scribbles. Maybe we should erase some of that. Here you go. So it says, DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southwest side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken. So she was asleep. I don't know. If we go by what Kathy Mabbitt said, I'm being sarcastic when I say that. And I'm not being hard on Kathy Mabbitt. I think she had an extraordinary job to do talking about something that's very difficult to talk. I mean, just you can't even describe that type of injury basically on television. And I don't think she'd ever been in the spotlight like that. But I always have questions back to that original interview we saw with her. And again, I'm not trying to come down on this woman, but she said they were all asleep when the attacks happened. And to me, the coroner knows that's not true. I mean, didn't she go to the scene and see that they didn't all pass on while they were sleeping? So I don't know. Maybe DM was wrong about the time, or Payne lied. Maybe she didn't hear the dog until 4:17. That's a great question. So if we look at the PCA, what they tell us is not to rely on what they're telling us. They don't want us to do that. It says, let me find it. Okay. Let me find it. Hold on. Oh, well, this kind of plays into the last statement we were just looking at. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated occupants of the King Road residence were home at 2 a.m. and asleep in their respected rooms by 4 a.m., with the exception of Kernodle, who received the DoorDash at the residence approximately 4 a.m. Okay, let me read through this. She originally went to sleep in the DM approximately 4 a.m. I'm finding the line for you guys. Okay, here it is. So back to the question that William had up here. Maybe DM was wrong about the time, or Payne lied. Maybe she didn't hear the dog until 4:17. But down here it says, it's not going by memory. A review of the records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed that Kernodle was on her. So that's not the line I wanted to show you, but that does show they did forensic downloads of their phone. Hold on. I'll find it in 1 second, you guys. I know this PCA well. Hold on. Well, I'm not gonna give a bunch of dead air while I'm looking for this. Essentially, what the PCA says is it's a combination of forensic downloads in their statements. It's in that first paragraph. I'm not gonna stop. I gotta find it. All right, well, for purposes of continuing the live stream, I'm going to turn back to the chat and move to some other questions. Great comments, you guys, by the way. The rumors are that the whole area was down. And like I said, I did verify that with somebody who is local, and that was WSU Mom Kim. And I heard that the outages extended to Wasu, I think, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on there. Meaning, we know from the evidence released that Xana was the only one awake when the attacks happened, except Dylan. But there was a struggle on the second floor. I'm not contradicting you. Maybe, okay, you know what? I think this is semantics. I think that I think there's a misunderstanding of words here. So just reading Viviana's question and then reading what other and listening what other people say, I think this is where the misunderstanding is coming in. And correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe they were originally asleep, except Xana, when they got attacked. We know that they weren't unalived while they were sleeping. And I say that because there was a battle on the second floor. And DM heard what she thought was somebody playing with the dog upstairs. So that person was awake. The question is, was the other person already unalived at that time? That was right after 4. I don't know. So, I mean, maybe we're all right. Maybe they were asleep except Xana when this all started. Xana and everybody else was awakened, including DM. Because it says she was awakened by what she thought was dogs playing. So she was asleep when the alleged, killer came in the house. Okay. I just watched your explanation of aggravating factors and I subscribed. Just unsubscribe. Well, I'm sorry. You guys, I will start reading the comments before I display them. Don't get mad at me, please. Three minutes when you give BK time to do anything. It's such a, I think the estimates would be between 8 and 12 minutes, depending on travel time into the house. Okay. Miss Potts says, how many times did something need to be sealed so it wouldn't disclose Ellie's investigative techniques? Over and over in this case, stingrays and pole cams without warrants were used, in my opinion. All I have to say is, okay, I actually, when I was looking into prosecutorial misconduct the other day, I was reading, I heard about a case. Essentially, one of the problems with our court system is when you're convicting someone of a crime. Let's just say they used a stingray and they think they've got this guy, they got him. And this person's facing time, so they offer them a plea deal. Did you know that this is a Supreme Court debate, that you can not tell someone if you have exculpatory evidence against them until trial? That's why we're having all these pretrial hearings to decide if all the discovery has been disclosed. But a police could essentially have information like that against you, cause you to plead out, and you might find out after the fact that they had that information. And I'll tell you where I got my source from that. And I don't know the name of the video, but it was on the channel Patches because he tagged me in a video once. So I went over there and then this video popped up in my feed and he was reading about this case and it was absolutely fascinating. So this, according to that article he read, that's an exculpatory evidence issue. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that because I'm obviously not an expert, but I thought that was interesting and you sparked my memory. Hold on. Viviana. Okay, where can I find documentation that the states Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and BF were sleeping? Kathy Mabbitt said it in a soundbite. Hold on. Mina says, I watched a video from Adario that showed him driving around the neighborhood, pointing out areas where stingrays could possibly be. He's sent me photographs. Let me see if I have any saved in, here's one right here. This is interesting because this one is where we see that iconic, well, here, this is the Queen Road, but when we see that iconic picture, let me take down the comment for a second. Where the frick is your comment? When we take down this, when we see this iconic picture of the shoes hanging from the lines there, and then we look at this picture in high definition. So Michael Adario went to Moscow to film. He's a professional photographer, videographer, photographer, and he's a licensed drone operator. So he came down to document this. He is a huge proponent of victims' rights, and he was drawn to this case. And he went to go document the iconic photograph of the sneakers hanging from the tower lines. When he got there, he had heard rumors of the power lines being tightened up. Since then, those notices have been scrubbed from the internet, allegedly, as he says. And when he showed up, this is what he saw, and all the wires were pulled back, and you can see where he's made those little red marks. He's saying are indicators of where it would have been mounted. So there's that. I don't know. Let's move forward. Then how has the media distorted what is true in Moscow? I don't know what's going on in this case. It's like there's never ends. The PCA is irrelevant. Even the state says so. Throw in the trash. Okay, William Tardy. We're back to, and I'm totally with you, William, because I'm obsessed with the timelines. Let's get right into it. What is approximately 4, 4:10, 3:05, 4:30? I'm gonna go with 4:05 because if you look at the PCA, I'm sorry I keep doing this to you guys. Let me take down this picture. If we look at the PCA, the reason why I say it's like 4:05 is because if we go up here, well, let me stop my camera. And let me put this in like a little bit of a better, no, that doesn't help. Hold on. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. You have to get past their statements. Hold on. Here we go. Let me put this on full screen so you can see what I'm talking about, William. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time at approximately 4:04. Wow, I suck at this today. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning in front. Let me erase that. Stopping and turning in front of the 500 Queen Road, number 52, and driving back westbound on King Road with suspect vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park and turn. I don't need to keep going, but the point I'm making is that where they're saying it entered the neighborhood was at 4:04. So the only thing that we're basing the time they came in, other than it's saying there was a forensic download of the girls' phones, so we would have known when DM awoke and checked the time. We know that at 4:04, the suspect entered that area, allegedly on Linda Lane. So, I mean, if you look at the distance, let me show you a pic. If you look at the distance, let me find the right pic. If you look at the distance between the King Road house and Linda Lane, I mean, we're talking a minute walk. So I'm thinking 4:05-ish. And while we're on the subject, I saw Harsh Reality talking about the white Elantra today and the cameras. Harsh, if you're watching, you didn't have this camera. I wanted to show this to you. Let me take down this comment. Mikey sent me this one, but this could have been the camera too. And as you can see, I caught a picture of it before it got taken down. This is the 712 camera. Anyway, back to business. I had another picture I wanted to show you. Wait. All right, I'm going back to the comments. I don't remember what I was going to say. Wait. Why is college students' word being taken as law? Like kids don't lie when they think they're going to be in trouble. They could be telling the truth over a noise complaint. You're absolutely right, but I'll tell you one thing that they might not anticipate is how precisely the police can like verify whether what they're saying about their phones is wrong, because every time they make a little move with their cell phone, the police know it's not only them, but they know exactly where they're going. There's like gyroscopes and magnetometers inside those phones that tell you what direction they're going. All right. Julie Glenn says, I always thought that from the statement, from that statement from DM, that Kaylee was in her own room, heard something and went to Maddie's room, and that's when she was killed. I am so glad you said that, because honestly, that's how I feel too. I mean, honestly, I have always thought that that's what happened, and maybe they ended up being thrown on the bed together, but I don't know. I mean, the police are pretty specific and bold with the fact that the two girls went to bed together in that room. So do they know something we don't that indicates that? But honestly, like, how could we know that? Like, how could we know that unless somebody saw that happening? Because Murphy was in the other room. I heard one time, I want to say I was watching Truth Transparency. This is like at least a year ago or something. But somebody brought up a good point. Where was the cell phone charger? Because we all know we all plug our phones in at night. So like, where was Kaylee's cell phone charger? That would be, if it was in Maddie's room, might be a good indicator. But the other thing too is that if DM heard there's someone here and it wasn't Xana and it was Kaylee upstairs, could she have heard Kaylee over in inside Maddie's room, or would she have had to have been in the hallway for Xana to hear, for DM to hear something like that? I don't know. My freaking hair. Just keep my camera off. I lost track of the comments already. Mr. Sentinel says, abuse of the Drug Task Force is going to become apparent since Tyson Barrett was a former detective abusing an unmarked car on campus for special investigative purposes. That's petrifying. Oh my God. How petrifying is that? When I was younger, my parents always used to tell me, oh, if you're getting pulled over, pull into a well-lit area. And I was always like, oh my gosh, like, what's the big deal? But now I know that people can so easily impersonate a police officer. Thank you, true crime community. Okay. Viviana clearing something up. UVI page was down for maintenance around midnight. No internet was down. Okay. I mean, so I wonder, we'll know with those forensic downloads. Was a signal dropped? Did the phone lose battery? Was it turned off? Why did Kaylee lose all signal after power dialing Jack 10 times? Did it run out of batteries? Like, why did her phone go down? Why was Tyson Barrett a seasoned detective not involved in the investigation? Wow, I don't know. But thank you for letting me know the name. I will definitely look into that. So Kaylee was playing with her dog, or that's what DM believed to have heard, and she fell asleep seconds later. Well, isn't that when she yelled to shut the F up? I don't know. Truth and Justice True Crime with Anna D says, well, maybe someone could see if there was problems with the AT&T or Verizon up there because maybe they were hacked. I know that's happened here where I live, and we couldn't get online on certain phones. It's very insightful, actually. Thank you. Toes wrote that for me. I'm just kidding. A woman that knows everything knows it all. Thank you. I'm just kidding. Okay. Viviana says, Kaylee wasn't playing with the dog. It was actually the attack, but DM thought it was her and the dog. Absolutely. And if I misspoke, she, in this PCA, might as well reference it since we have it up. And of course I go by it already. Let's use yellow highlighter for this. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her room on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated she was woken up at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonzalez playing with her dog in one of the upstairs rooms, which were located on the third floor. And then it was a short time later when she heard something to the effect of, "There's someone here." Okay, back to the comments. I'm trying to go faster, you guys. Tyson Barrett had more so-called detective experience than anyone based on the previous cases known publicly. It's weird. Diana says, Angel, I agree. It's well-known fact that criminals use this tactics all the time to commit robberies, etc. I don't know what we were talking about. What did Angel say? Oh, because Angel said the biggest way to change a timeline is to use someone's phone to extend proof of life and pretend it's them. Yeah. Hey, did you guys know this? When I was studying metadata, when we first started this conversation over a year ago, and I was debating Get a Clue, I needed to know more about metadata evidence. And one of the most helpful articles I read was by MIT. And what they were basically saying is cell phone companies sell your metadata fingerprints, basically your metadata information. Basically, your metadata is more accurate than your own fingerprint. Like the way that you handle your phone is extremely unique to you. So if criminals do this, it could on the surface trick someone. But if anyone ever did a forensic download of their phone, or it just the app itself can tell if it's you or your kid using it. It can tell if it's you or your husband using it. Like the app has enough investigative tools inside of it to tell who's using the phone. So, I mean, yes, I think that criminals could do that to trick people. But on the flip side, if people spent the money, if people downloaded the forensics, they'd be able to tell the real truth, because you can't use someone else's phone and pretend you're them if they search it right. Let me get to the rest of the comments here. Okay. Why is a college student's word being taken? Oh, we already read that one. Being taken as law, the kids don't lie. All right, let me get back down to the up-to-date comments. William Tardy says, if a stingray was used, they would admit it in court. States have let criminals walk because they didn't admit to using stingray. I don't think they're allowed to admit to it in court. They're definitely not allowed to. Like, we'll get the exact law from the DOJ, because I misspoke earlier. As I was going on, I have thought about, there is case law on this, but they're required to use the term confidential informant. And if it's not, they are not even allowed to talk about it. I don't know when it comes to court, but at least to the general public, the non-disclosure agreement is a non-starter for these devices. You're not allowed to state whether you're using them or not. You're not even allowed to state if you're not using them, if you sign the non-disclosure. And by the way, hello, Mish Girl and Meg P. Welcome to the chat. I agree with William Tardy that if a stingray was used, they would never admit to it in court, and I believe that they are legally allowed to lie. Well, that's petrifying to all of us. Viv, you just out there stating things. Hello, Joey. Okay. Cy Ray said that there is that it's only used if you don't know where the perp is, and is extremely important to find them because PD already knew where Brian was. I agree with Mrs. Potts. Stingrays are used, but not always reported. Okay, and then just to clear up the time of the attacks right here, we don't obviously know the exact minute, because even with a forensic download of what DM says, I mean, DM doesn't know. She didn't know the attacks had happened. But Viviana says the attacks happened between 4:04 and 4:20. Just if I've given too much of a word salad up here and I confused anyone. Nick says that Payne knew on the 29th of November. And Meg P says, I have Googled it many times and they use something similar to Stingray. Nick says they found his car on the 29th on November, so they already had his name. Like I want to do, oh, that reminds me, I need to do a video on the private driver. I don't want to give away all my videos here, but I can't help it. I can't stop talking. Okay, okay. So the WSU officer who allegedly reported the car on the 29th, that tip didn't immediately go through to the police. It kind of got caught in limbo for a little while. Rocco, stop. My dog just brought something over to me. Drop it. And it's a sticky curler, like these big curlers that go in your hair. Look at it. It's like cracked. Thank you, Rocco. You can have that now. I don't know how he got that. Sorry. So my point was this, back to the private driver. I've been putting together a video about the private driver. Maybe I need to do the live stream today because I'm talking about it. But like, what blows my mind is that the private driver actually reported Brian's car. Did you know that? He reported he lived 1,200 feet from Brian or something, and he had reported all suspicious cars, and Brian's was one of them. I just think that's super ironic. And then I'll stop talking about it from there. I'm just being careful with the comments, you guys. I have to go a little bit slower. Okay, this is a good one. So Viviana, I don't know why we're asking Viviana. Was BF asleep? Why are you asking Viviana? Was BF asleep? If so, why did the two call others over before the 911 call? I think that that's what originally made this case just blow up. Is there's so much mystery with that 8-hour time gap. Well, one of the things. Saya's a smart man. Does he know everything? No, nobody does. Nick says, I like seeing how firm opposing sides are on their belief. Meany says, how do we know whether or not Sai is smart or not as smart as everyone thinks? Now everyone's saying Payne is smarter than Sai. Okay, and Viviana, this is Bree's question back here. Bree had said, Was BF asleep? If so, why did the two call others over before 911? Iman says, Bree. When they woke up, they realized something was wrong and called Hunter J. I still, at this point, think that I think the only thing I've heard closest to an official source is that leaked Batanti interview to the Mirror. I'm sorry, Vivian, I know you think it's tabloid fodder, but Batanti could have that thing taken down if he wanted to. And I wonder if Bethany found the bodies. I mean, they called Hunter over. I'm sure she waited, but and maybe that's why he used her cell phone instead of his. Maybe she fainted and he picked it up. But why wouldn't he use his own cell phone to call? Because we know it was one of the roommate's cell phones that made the call, but it wasn't the roommate. That's what they said in the press conference. And William says, I saw an article saying that you could build your own IMI catcher for about $20. Huh. Okay. Angel says, Swamp, I've spoken to Xana's friend over a year ago, and it was a story Xana told everyone. Well, now that is interesting. You're getting a star, Angel. Thank you for being a source for us. You know, I'm like, that's fascinating. That's an update. I'm gonna report on that on my channel. Thank you for the comment. Could you leave the initials of the pro? You spoke to Xana's friend. You're talking about the foundation in the bathtub friend, I'm assuming. Just verify that was the friend so I can say who your source was when I report on it. Thank you. All right, so moving forward. Oh, I'm glad that the you guys are sending each other wine. See, we can all get along. All right. It was also said that Stingray Companies has a clause in their contract that if you buy their product, you can't share this info with the public, etc. Protect them from getting sued. And happy Monday to you, Joey. Meg P says, I'm smart, but I like to hide behind humor instead sometimes. It's not easy. Oh wait, I should read the comment up. It's not easy to become easy for becoming a nurse. I'm just saying not everyone is as they appear. Nick says, want to know how CAS works? Watch the YSL trial right now and the last few weeks. Oh my gosh, I need to catch up on the YSL trial. I was like watching something with Little Woody on, so embarrassing his name in my live stream, the other day, and he's like doing some interview. Like my husband's watching and we're like, you know, he's in jail right now. Like, but I need to get caught up on that trial. It was so fascinating when I was following it. I see. Oh wait. Cy-Ray program so awful and unvetted. The military used it for years to locate landmines and to keep our troops from being blown up. And that's the original use for these stingrays. So they're intercepting the cell phone signals because that's how, you know, the improvised explosive devices, the IEDs or whatever, that's how they do it, is with a cell phone. Okay. Darian says, Cy has no peers. He is a pioneer. Thousands of police and agencies have hired him to train their people. Duh. Yeah. look up at your comment. Let me make sure I got, oh, okay. Yep, I'm just making sure I got the right one. So saw someone she didn't recognize and was startled for a moment. I mean, there's no doubt they could have imagined what just happened. As a human, we don't think that stuff. Maybe. Nick says, the PCA is misleading. How did they get a warrant only knowing of a white car? I mean, if they didn't want to rely on the DNA and that PCA with the small parts that are redacted, I'm assuming lists out what they do have for video evidence, because it would appear by this PCA there was a capture immediately after him leaving. So there's a white Elantra. Okay, so that might be the reference to the white car. I don't know. But I think it's a collection of circumstantial that they got the search warrant, because that DNA was not supposed to be part of it. Duh, you guys know that. Sure, let's crown Cyril all that when he hasn't even shown one thing yet. For all we know, his testimony may not even be allowed. All right, let's break this down. Sure, let's crown Cyril all that when he hasn't even shown one thing yet. Well, what he did show is that, in my opinion, from watching his testimony, is that what he does have for evidence is not the standard that people use. And he does reserve the right. He says what he's seen is exculpatory. For all that we know, his testimony may not even be allowed in court. Why wouldn't his testimony be allowed in court? I don't know. I mean, I just don't think the witnesses get much more squeaky clean than that. I don't think you get better witnesses than that, to be perfectly honest. And Viviana says they're talking about the PCA, meaning irrelevant because that evidence has not been expanded upon for trial. And that's an interesting statement. Thank you. Doesn't mean it was Xana as she told that story to everyone. Yes, no, I got exactly what you were picking up on. That changes everything. They could tell with the forensic download if it was Xana making the actual text, but do we know? Well, they did. Actually, we have the PC up. So one thing we know for sure is that if it wasn't Xana doing it because of this, a review of records obtained a forensic download of Cronuto's phone. So we will know who was using it by the metadata. We will know if a perp grabbed that phone and TikToked it. Cyril Tech and Program. Oh, wait, I should read like this. Cyril Tech and Program so bad it was adopted by the military and FBI for use on a plethora of cases. Okay, Nick says, got cell warrant based on a white car only. Amara Rocker says, cell phone simulators, aka Stingrays, are illegal to use in the US without a warrant. But how do we even know they used them? That's what's so crazy is like, you should be able to face your freaking accuser in the United States. If somebody's obtaining evidence against you, particularly if they're obtaining a search warrant against you, back to this whole issue of having exculpatory evidence when somebody's pleading and not being able to show it to them, you have the right in this country to face your accuser. If the evidence is stacked against you, and part of it which led to you was the Stingray, even if you're guilty of what they're saying, you have a right, that basic human right, to know who your accuser is. And this is absolutely scary. It's scary for all of us. There's that saying from when communism started taking over the world, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Because basically, you can find anybody and search their life and either find something they've done wrong or find a way to make them look like they've done someone wrong. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. We have to be able to face our accusers in this country. His cell phone was off, so it wasn't in the area. Okay, I'm going to listen now. Again, I'm just reading the comments before I put them up. I bet she called her dad. Her dad did say that. Oh, are you talking about Dylan or? I know that Xana called her dad that night. Although people have questioned whether maybe he got the nights wrong, but I happen to think they did speak that way. I have to read this. Well, first off, thank you for saying that, Meg, because that's what's important today. But I have to read this next comment by Mrs. Potts. Anyone talking smack about Psy better offer up their services to the state to counter the expert testimony to Psy. I can't argue with Mrs. Potts. We're talking about Psy and Carrie's biggest fan over here, so. I spoke to her friend. It wasn't the way Xana would speak. And she was a storyteller when drunk, and that was one of them. Now that is very creepy. You're getting another star. I agree with Angel that it might not have been Xana. I don't use TikTok, so I'm not sure what is possible as far as hacking into, etc. And then Casey Kane says, it is possible that Xana's phone was offline, but the comment popped up when it came back online. That's a very good point. Okay, Amira Rocker says, correction, cell site simulators are illegal to use in the US without a warrant. But how would you even know they're using them? These tools, whether it comes to IgG, cell phone simulators, lie detector tests, and that's a bad example. The point is, a confidential informant, whoever, you have the right to know who's accusing you. And we have these rights for a reason. They're like, if we give up these rights, guys, there's nowhere else for us to go. There's no other country that protects these rights. So cherish them and speak up against them. Oh, hey, Essie, thanks for showing up. Mr. Sentinel says, Amira Rocker, organized criminals masquerade as government don't care. That's actually the freaking truth, isn't it? Nobody was sleeping. I tend to agree. The only person that I have no reason to think wasn't sleeping is Maddie. And I mean, I would only base that off two things. No mentioning of Maddie in the PTA and what Steve said about the wounds being so drastically different. So. And Darian says, well, if you are corrupt, you probably wouldn't want his testimony out. If I were Xana, if Xana was logged onto TikTok on her phone, they wouldn't need to hack into it. Just know her lock screen passcode if the phone wasn't active. Oh my gosh, Scott, you're so right on. So, okay, let's talk about DoorDash for a minute. I'm going to say a bunch of things that people are going to backlash me for, but I'm going to say them anyway. Okay, she got the DoorDash at 4:05. There was a DoorDash on the counter with her name on it and a drink. We don't know if it's the same DoorDash. The kitchen was a mess. which is weird because we know that Xana was a neat freak. But the kitchen was a mess with a DoorDash bag on the counter with her name on it. We don't know if it was that night, but let's just for hypothetically say the DoorDash order was that night's DoorDash order. Okay. Explain this to me. Like Scott just said, how does Xana get a DoorDash order at 4:05 and then have it on the counter? So did she bring the food back into her room and eat it and bring it back out? Did she see the perpetrator when she came back out? Had she just got the DoorDash delivery, was in the kitchen and saw the perpetrator and said, or heard him and said, there's someone here? But I mean, what did she do with the food? Did she eat it in the kitchen and leave the bag there? Did she bring it back to the bedroom, finish it, bring it back out? I mean, it's just so weird. Like if you're going to bring your food into the room and it's back out on the counter, wouldn't that indicate you finished eating it? So how long did it take to eat the food if you got it at 4:05 and it's back on the counter? Then I don't know. But the food is such a freaking wild card in this. And then I don't want to be one of the I just don't know. The DoorDash part of this is such a wild card. Angel says, yeah, back in the beginning, it was me that asked her about it. And then she private messaged me. This is really important information. Thank you for giving it out. Truth and Disparity says, there has been past cases where Cyray's information wasn't found. I'm so glad you brought this up. Conclusional to the case. His info isn't without a doubt. I'm not suggesting his info is without a doubt. Everybody's human, but I don't know what you're citing. You're going to have to be more specific because the only case where that I've ever heard in question was a case he was called in as a consultant. He took a look at the prosecutor's work and he said, this is not done correctly and I can't vouch for this. And they didn't use it in court. And that's what everybody is citing, that Cy's Ray material was thrown out of court. It wasn't even his work. He came in as a consultant. He looked at what the police did. He said, this is wrong. And they threw out the evidence. And now we have these rumors like wildfire that by a lot of people who lean towards guilt for Proberger saying that Cy has been discredited. And no such thing has ever happened. And I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for showing up, Justice. We'll definitely play. Justice just put out a new video, a new tribute video to the 4 victims, which we will play at the end of this. It's very beautiful. So please go check it out. At the month mark, she always makes a new video. And I believe we're at 23 months. So thank you for all you do, Justice. Mrs. Potts says, I think Ethan was so drunk, he never knew what happened. Just my opinion. Toxicology reports will be interesting. I know. He's such an athlete. I mean, we do know the alleged unaliver was an athlete too. We know about the Strava app and the jogging at night. But look at all those pictures of Ethan and look at he was a sports addict, according to his mom. I mean, you look at the way he could his core strength and how he could do paddleboarding and water skiing and all that kind of stuff. This is a very strong person, and it is perplexing that the killer could get away unscathed. However, with that said, I have had ex-military online say that of all things, they would never, ever, the worst thing ever is a knife fight. They're just almost impossible to not get killed if somebody knows what they're doing. It's probably time for me to cut the live stream because I'm beginning to talk in a word salad. Meanie says, Viviana, okay, hold on. I saw Dar Square up here. Oh, thank you for the blessing. Hold on, I have I just got a super chat and I want to read this comment, but I can't find it. Hold on. Here it is. So first off, thank you for the blessing. And Devil-Eyed Elvis says, you do such a fantastic job, buddy. Thank you. There is so much that doesn't make sense about this case against him. I've spoke to a lot of state investigators out there since the beginning and just via work contracts, and they just don't see it. I don't know if you've followed my channel for long, but this is the first case that I've ever covered, is the case against Bryan Kohberger. And the paperwork is so confusing and it feels so ambiguous. And I thought that probably all PCAs and stuff were like this, but I've been shown other paperwork since I've been doing this, and this case just seems uniquely confusing. So thank you again for the blessing. And while I'm in the starred comments, I just noticed that Bree Silva is a new member. Thank you so much for joining. All right, back to the comments here. All right, it started around freaking timeline. If we didn't know about the DoorDash, who is probably a witness in this case, for me, I would go back to this timeline because we know the door was left open. So the time of death is very difficult to determine. But you're saying it started around 2 to 2:30 a.m. You can hear them on the Linda Lane footage, hear a woman yelling for something, and it sounds like fight, and the cops were there after you hear someone yell for cops. Yeah, I haven't covered Linda Lane in a while because I am so confused about that evidence. I just don't know what to think. Like, from what I've learned from the gag order, that evidence, if it's being used in a case, would get pulled off the internet. And it's not because they don't want us to analyze the evidence. It's because something in that video could persuade one of the 400 witnesses in this case. That's why they don't like evidence being evaluated on the internet ahead of the trial like this. So that leads me to believe a couple of things. Could there be, is Linda Lane a fake? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying the footage is fake, but those overlays in that time. But if it is real, 100%, that timestamp and everything that goes on from like 150, because obviously I'm a quasi expert on Linda Lane, like everything from like 155 to like, I don't know, 305 is I feel like is relevant to the case if it were real. The screams, the dog barking, the cars, there's just so much. And I even got kind of accustomed to understanding if the sound came from within the building or if it came from within the parking lot. But, I just don't know. But great comment. Moving on. I don't know what we're talking about. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're talking about Cy Ray. Yeah. If you listen to his podcast, he has cleared up that it wasn't his fault because the cops were wrong. And he says that when that happens, when they show the cops that their evidence was wrong and is exculpatory to their client, they never call him back. He said. Wait. Hey, Bo. Did somebody call? God. You guys, I do have to read the comments before I display them, so I'm sorry it's taking a minute. Okay. Dar Square says, hey, Kiki, there was so much partial information. Also, having to be strength building leg. He could have been immobilized by loss of hamstring injuries. I have heard that. And I can't remember where I heard it, but I have heard that he did have that injury. I'm not going to say more details of what I heard. Rocco, stop. My dog needs to go outside, so I've got to wrap this up in a couple of minutes. I'm sorry, puppy. Oh, I'm sorry, I displayed that. Hold on. Did DM say I was originally, or did she originally say? I don't think they give any direct quotes from Dylan, so I think it's, well, you have a good point. This line right here, just stop it, Rocky, give me a minute. This line says, DM stated she originally went to bed in her room. Wait, hold on. Is it typical for people to call a hero of war who defended our country a serial killer with no proof? Who did? I don't know what's going on in the chat, you guys. But please don't fight. You know, puppy, just give me a minute. And I wanted to say one other thing I forgot to say when I had that up. Devil-eyed Elvis, thank you for your service to this country. And I'm sure the entire chat will thank you as well. As soon as I said that, I should have paused and mentioned that when I first pulled your comment up. I know, just give me a minute, pup. Okay. If you watch footage of Ellie interviewing witnesses in other crimes, they often force the narrative. So what Dylan stated in her interview might not have been true. I just want to show you guys this dog. He's so funny. I really gotta go. Puppy, just give me a minute. I don't. I don't, but I will say I'm willing. You gotta give me a minute. I'm certainly going to look at whatever anyone has to say for a connection, because I cover this case. And I want to make sure to rule out something that people are making such passionate videos about, but I don't see a connection, nor do I think they were involved. I will say I have some bias when it comes to any of these people, including the Fenty boys. I've been told not to cover that type of gang-related activity. It's just so I tend to stay away from talking about that. I like the diversity of friends and family who come visit my channel. I don't want to offend anyone by talking about some of the things that are affiliated with that gang-related activity. So I have a bias, and I've neglected to study it. But I don't know. I will listen a little bit more, but as far as I can tell, there isn't. Oh, and then Nick says Farley isn't part of this. I'm sure my mods are pulling their hair out right now when they hear me saying, I'll look into it. If they had an audio connected device, and if they have ring cam data, two phones would turn phones into a connected to device. Okay, Tyrion, the prosecution will call their experts at trial. I think that I think all that JB Gunner you watch and support his corrupted, I'm sorry, you guys, I should read the comments before I disclaim them. So with the dog, I would think that the dog would, okay, I agree. So Truth and Justice, True Crime with Anna D says, so with the dog, I would think that the dog would be going crazy. Dogs are smart and they know when their owners are being hurt 100%. My dog goes crazy barking if I'm fighting with my boyfriend. I can't disagree with you. I mean, I can't. If the PCA is inferring that she heard dog barking, that was at 4:05, and that ring cam picked up the dog barking at 4:17. Was the dog barking for 10 minutes straight? I mean, that would cause DM to wake up and not just take it as general partying. She could also think the dog's being annoying, so nothing of alarm, so you can go back to sleep. But this dog barking, and that's another thing about Linda Lane is the dog barking we hear. It might not have been Murphy if that footage is real, but it could have been a dog triggered by Murphy at 4 a.m. on a cold November night. It's not like he's hearing, it's not like a dog in that neighborhood wouldn't be used to car door slamming or noise outside. And so like, if a dog was barking at that hour in the middle of the night, I would think it's responding to another dog barking. Okay, just throwing it out there, and I'm moving on. Wait. I don't know what's going on in the chat. It's confusing. Hey, Bubs. Bubbly says, sure sign this is happening in Moscow. There's so many 911 calls that do not connect. All over Moscow police reports. That's fascinating, Bubs. If you have a video on that, if somebody could drop it in the chat, just let me know. I'd love, if you've done work on that, I'd love to hear. And what I will do is if I do find something on your channel about it, I'll pass it on to Michael Adario, since he's doing so much research on it. Wait, hold on. Truth and Disparity says, so because a man hunts wolves, he is a serial killer. I guess that's a lot of hunters in Idaho and out west. Okay, you guys, I'm going to get off subject for a second, but it'll be really fast. Like, I love animals and I don't want to see any animal hurt. But one thing I will say about hunters and anglers, and everybody needs to understand this. If you enjoy conservation land, if you enjoy state parks, you need to support hunters and anglers because they're the ones who pay for those things. It's not tree hugging people at universities that protect our conservation land. It's hunters and fishers paying for fish and game in our states. What an animal who loses their life from a hunter or fisherman had a far more amazing life than the one that you go to the grocery store and pick up their flesh at the counter. So, I mean, just, you know, like, I don't want to see a wolf being shot and I don't want to see any animal being shot, but I also know that it's a cycle of life, and without them, you know, we wouldn't have our conservation land. We wouldn't have, like, Cape Cod has 22,000 acres of national seashore, and without the fishing industry, how do you even regulate? How do you even know what's going on in the water without the fishermen? So anyway, I'll shut up. Timing is what will make PCA totally 100% or not probable, not proven. Meg P says, my husband is active military. I respect all military members, but like everyone else, they are not all good. Not all LE is good, and not all doctors are good, etc., etc., etc. The system, the person in that position, it's only as good as the people. It's only as good as the people. You can, you know, without authoritarian power. I have to be careful with the comments right now. We're pretty deep in some conversation here. We'll put this one up. All right, here we go. William Tard is coming in with the PCA says everyone was home by 2 a.m. and in their rooms and asleep by 4 a.m. How could DM know this if she was asleep at 4 a.m.? Wouldn't she have to be the one person to go to her room? That's a great question. They said it was a combination of things. Let's take a look again. Let's change the highlighter to pink. Okay. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated. I think that's an important word. Indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were home by 2 a.m. and asleep in the rooms by at least 4 a.m. They were giving their best guess. It's weird they don't include the forensic download in that statement. Maybe because they just didn't want to say it again. I don't know. And that's another thing too, is at 2 a.m., I mean, poor Murphy, like he definitely had to be, like he probably had to go to the bathroom. Right? What about Kane? Hey, Michael. And then Mrs. Potts says, lots of hunters don't, oh God. Yeah, let's use our debating skills rather than calling people's names. Okay, so was BF the last person in her room? No. According to this, Xana was. According to this. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Let me make that look a little bit more like normal. I feel like a teacher today with my whiteboard. Nobody in the house would have still been asleep after that first unaliving. I agree, Bo. Like, but we just don't know like the dynamics of this story. So ambiguous, so vague. You tried to summon Heather. Well, I see. I'm not going to put your comment up, Bree Sully, but I think Heather's trying to do the best job she can, and that's all I have to say. She's just trying to bring us the facts the best she can. Oh, which way did that deer go? I know, I'm sorry, but I don't want to think of a deer getting shot either, but I also don't want to think of a poor little animal locked up in a cold concrete floor, metal bar, like little baby pig, as intelligent as a puppy, sitting there watching like a conveyor belt of other animals getting unalived in front of it. So wherever you get your food, something has to happen to it. Stop putting your heads in the sand. I'm not preaching to you guys. I'm just saying in general. They Heather's probably sleeping. Depends on how late everybody was up last night in the live chats. I don't know if it was busy on YouTube last night. The part I don't comprehend is that Xana ordered food delivery at 4 a.m., awake and active, but other girls were apparently attacked first. Then the culprit went back to Xana and Ethan. Totally agree, totally agree, totally agree. Let's talk about what Jack is saying here. And I'll break it down why I agree with Jack. So let's erase all this. Hold on. The reason we can surmise that he attacked Xana first and came back is this. This gives me chills, actually. It's scary to me. Okay. Starting here. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonzalez playing with a dog in her room upstairs, which was located on the 3rd floor. A short time later, DM heard what she thought was Gonzalez playing with the dog, to the effect of saying, "There's someone here." This is after she heard the playing with the dog stuff. So this is after right after 4 o'clock. She hears there's someone here. A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could also have been Kernodle, as her cell phone indicated she was likely awake during using the TikTok app at 4:12. So let's just say it was Xana at 4:12 who said this. She said there's someone here. So, okay, it's Xana. Okay, that's not my point. Let's go right here. DM stated she looked at her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being here. And DM stated that she opened her door a second time when she heard what was crying coming from Kernodle's room. So the perpetrator's still upstairs and she heard crying coming from Kernodle's room. I mean, why would Xana be crying? She just ordered DoorDash. She's playing on TikTok. Her boyfriend's there. She's intoxicated. Why is Xana crying after ordering DoorDash? Unless, like Jack said, she was attacked, and trigger warning. After this, after she is crying and yells, "There's someone here," to tell her other roommates, or when DM opens the door and says, "Shut the F up," maybe Xana yelled back, "There's someone here," and she's crying. And we know the perpetrator came back to her room after that because Dylan saw him walking right by. So physically, she knows that after the upstairs event, the killer was back. So yeah, I would agree with you, Jack. I'm so dramatic today, sorry. Problem with the PCA, it was really vague about times, except for the 4:12 and the car speeding up at 4:20. Everything else is a short time later. I think it's going to be pretty exact too once he leaves at that house and goes into that house, because we know there's camera footage capturing him immediately, according to the PCA. I really gotta bring my dog out. I think a certain person does know what the word, oh, okay. Mrs. Potts said, "It's fine, the lead investigator tells his road along. We're just gonna stand here and listen. In the outcome, black darkness outside the home. Or the nothing to see here." All right. William Tardy says, "That's why I don't think anything happened until after 4:12. Xana would have called someone or 911 if she heard the call." Now that's a good point. She was, okay, so William brings up an excellent point here. You're getting a star. Yeah, so if Xana says there's someone here, it had to have been after 4:12 because that was her last TikTok activity, unless, like what Angel was telling us earlier, which I'll display because I starred it. Hold on. Let me find it. She said, "Swamp, I've spoken with Xana's friend over a year ago, and it was a story Xana told everyone, and it was in the message that she said to her on TikTok wasn't the way Xana would speak, and she was a storyteller when she was drunk, and that was one of those stories." Just thought that was interesting. Oh, thank you, Bunny. Love you. Thank you. Yes, Patches is Justin. He read an incredible article though when I was talking about prosecutorial. He wasn't addressing me, but I was doing a video on prosecutorial misconduct because I was talking about exculpatory evidence in the IGG, and I was like shocked. He did a video and kind of like backed up what I was saying. And so I listened to it from beginning to end. But he reads a really interesting article about this person who made a plea deal, and it went all the way to Supreme Court, and it needs to be ruled on because this person ended up spending like 8 years in jail or something on this plea deal. And come to find out, some of the evidence was exculpatory against him. But they don't have to show it until trial. So it's back to your constitutional rights. You have a right to face your accuser. Look up Supreme Court's ruling on LE. Dark Square says, Kiki, the issue is understanding the expectations of the policy. Seals galore, yes. What can be done? In every case. Early in the case, excuse me. And Wendy brings up, they could be sleeping and have defensive wounds. Absolutely. But I don't know. Ethan doesn't sound like he could have been asleep unless they were post-mortem. But how do you do post-mortem wounds? If you're in and out of there in 8 to 12 minutes, how would there be post-mortem wounds? I mean, that was a Mortal Kombat. Again, trigger warning. I'm not trying to be Darian says, Mabbitt wasn't allowed in the crime scene until police were done. Isn't that kind of weird? Don't you think? I've always heard, like, and again, I'm like influenced by crime TV, but I always thought the coroner, like people had to like wait for the coroner. Like the coroner was like the big thing that had person who had to come in first. Yeah. This became an issue when Copa refused to save kids while knowing a shooter was there. Oh, yeah. Talking about Florida. Oh, yes. Dario's videos are wonderful. Kathy Mabbitt said a lot of things that are now shown to be false facts. Bill's in word. In my book, False Facts and Lies. Bubbly, I didn't even know you had a book. Number one, check out Bub's channels. If somebody could drop a link, that would be great. Christy, you might be the only mod here today. What the heck? Yeah, drop a link to Bub's channels. She's got a book, and I didn't know that. And please check out her book. The court sided with the cops. Who is Adario? I'm just going to show you because he contributed so much to today's live stream. Michael Adario. No, I don't still have it up. Michael Adario Photography is this channel right here. And this, I'll just play a bit of the video we watched today. It there because that kind of tells what. So if I take down your comment, Bubs, he has a series called Blow Up Moscow, Idaho, and he talks about his research he's done on stingrays and portable cell phone interceptors. Now, Michael Adario is a professional photographer, videographer, and drone operator. So we're talking about really, really fine, really high definition videos that I consider them mini documentaries he's done on Moscow. He's also a victims advocate. He is based out of San Francisco, and he has done quite a bit of victims advocate work using his skills and talents. So just to answer the question, who Adario is. They weren't all asleep, or DM wouldn't have heard someone's here. X was also crying, I know. William says, I don't think stingrays are used in that way. They would have to be near the antenna. Multiple antennas would indicate multiple stingrays, and I don't think MPD has that kind of scratch. You know, I don't know. But what I will say is everybody wants to come up with different ways that money was made or activities these girls were doing. And I'm sorry, but these girls don't look like OF to me. So people, you know, Michael, I'm going with alternative theories here, you know, different parallel, different things that could have happened. I've got that word salad going on, so maybe I should shut up because I need to get off the live stream. My professional connections. Them applying a stingray in Moscow may be illegal, but in Washington, where BK lives, it is not. Now that's interesting. It's like 8 minutes away, I think. Oh, did Viviana leave? I hope it wasn't something I said. All right, so I'm gonna call it a day, you guys. I gotta bring my dogs out. Otherwise, I would probably stay on for another hour. But I just appreciate you coming out and joining me today, and I hope you have a great day. I did want to say one other quick thing. Aquarius has been a member for a month. Thank you, Aquarius. And Devil I Elvis is a new member. Thank you for joining. And he gifted 20 Swamp Rose memberships. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you who showed up in the live chat today. I'm so sorry if I didn't get to your comment, but the comments are amazing and I appreciate everything. I appreciate you guys showing up. I hope you have a great week and I will see you next time.